does it start?
Okay, so here's our scenario. Math Club members are selling Pi Day shirts for $7.50 each. The goal is to raise $500 by Friday. The figure shows how much they've already raised by Wednesday. What is the minimum number of t-shirts that they must sell in order to reach their goal? So we're going to go through this whole calculation. So let's suppose that the number of, t, the variable, is going to be the number of t-shirts that are sold. Okay? Is this inequality an accurate representation of our situation? So we have 7.5t. What does 7.5t represent? What about the shirts? The cost. Because what do I know? What's the 7.5? Yeah, each shirt is $7.50, and then T is the number, which I don't know how many shirts. So 7.5T. Is that inequality a good representation of this scenario? Is that the inequality that for this scenario you would set up to find the number of shirts that they have to sell to reach their goal? Is it? Is this how we want to set up the inequality? Based on the scenario, does that inequality work? I see you shaking your head no. Why are you saying no? You're correct. It's not. Well, if this is the cost, this is the amount of money that they're going to raise, and it's going to be, so that means that it's going to be greater than or equal to 500. What's missing? Is there something missing? In this scenario, and again, look at the word problem, look at the image. What's missing? Rogelio, look forward. Mortimer, what's missing?
The picture.
What about it?
You have to add that onto your total.
Yeah?
In order for it to make sense.
What is this showing me? What does that mean? Jennifer. How much have they already raised?
337.
They've already raised $337.50. Their goal is $500. How much more money do they need, Marco?
$162.
They only need $162 more. They don't need to make $500. They already have a good chunk of that. So let's take a look at how we can represent this. Okay. We kind of already answered this. In order to determine, in order to create the inequality, we need to determine the amount of money that they still need, which you just identified, right? Because just the 500 is not enough. They already have most of it. They only need a little bit more, I guess you could say. Okay. So now let's write an inequality to represent the real scenario. How can we put together the real scenario? Marco.
I have an inequality that you can do.
Okay. We'll build it together. Let's give us part of it. What do we think?
7.5T.
Okay. And what is 7.5T going to represent?
How many shirts?
The total money for the shirts. To be sold. I'm going to put to be sold. Okay. Then what?
And then we can add on the 33.5.
And what?
The total, how much you have now?
Why are we adding that in? Man.
That's the amount of money they already raised.
Yeah, we already raised this. Wow, the marker doesn't love this. Okay. And then what? Let's finish it. How do we finish the inequality? So the amount that we're going to earn plus the amount we already have needs to be what?
Greater than or equal to 500.
Greater than or equal to 500. Because why? It says here, their goal is to raise 500. Does that mean they only want 500? No, if they made 1,000, that would be awesome. Awesome, right? But their limit, like their minimum amount is 500. So they can make 500, 501, 502, 510, 520. So greater than or equal to 500. So again, see how we put this together. The amount that they're going to earn plus what they already have needs to be greater than or equal to 500. How do we solve this? Now, this is a multi-step inequality because what's happening to T? There's two things happening. What are they? What's the first thing happening to T? We're first multiplying it by 7.5. And then what are we doing with that new number? Kevin? Then we're adding the $337.50. So first we multiply, and then we add it. So what are we going to do to undo those operations?
Subtract and divide.
All right, we're going to subtract and divide. What are we going to subtract?
337 dollars and 50 cents.
Perfect. So what are we left with? Right? If we rewrote our inequality, which is a great strategy for those of us that need some clarification, 7.5t is greater than or equal to what? 500 minus 337.50.
162.
Good, $162.50. So now this makes more sense. Because if we're selling shirts, I don't need to raise 500. I've already raised 337.57. I only need to really earn from this point forward $162.50. Okay? What next? Now I have to divide by 7.5, 750. Right? I'll just do 7. So how many t-shirts do we need to sell? Excuse me, Marco. The minimum is what? I'm sorry.
22.
What's the problem if I only sell 21? I won't make it to 500. What's the problem if I make it, I'm sorry. What's the problem if I sell 23?
There is no problem.
There is no problem because I want to make at least 500. What if I sell 22 exactly?
That's great.
Say it again. What did you say?
Oh, that's great.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. That means you met your goal. Fantastic. All right, we already. How would you explain the difference between a multi-step inequality and a multi-step equation?
Wait, what's
What's the difference between solving that multi-step equation and that multi-step inequality?
almost nothing except the one rule of having to change your sign.
Right, so as of right now, there really hasn't been a difference. The difference would come into play just like what we talked about yesterday when we multiply or divide by a negative. So now we're going to actually take this word problem and we're going to build an equation together. In a community garden, you want to fence in a vegetable garden that is adjacent to your friend. What does adjacent mean? It's a great geometry word. Adjacent.
Isn't like next to?
Next to, yeah, adjacent to your friend's garden. You have at the most 42 feet of fence. So like you can use all of it. Do you have to use all of it? No. So at the most. What are the possible lengths of your garden? Okay, so we're going to figure out what we know, what we need, and how we solve. Okay, so what do we know, what do we need, how do we solve? So that's not what I wanted to do. What do I know here? Kevin.
You have 42 feet of fence.
Okay, so I know that I have 42 feet of fence. What else do I know? So like this is my friend's garden, right? And then this is my garden. and I want to fence in the entire thing. And I have 42 feet. What else do I know?
If I can see it.
Okay, so how can I use that information? Go ahead. The length is going to be the same, okay? How can I represent that? So same, wait, well, explain that further because you're kind of saying two things at once. I know where you're going with it, but you're also saying something else too. How do I, think about how I'm going to represent my fence. What type of calculation is that going to be? What shape is my garden?
Rectangle.
It's a rectangle. And what represents the fence? The perimeter. Okay, so how can I represent the perimeter? What is the perimeter of my fence? Does it have to be 42? No. Okay, but it could be. Okay. But what do I know in terms of my perimeter?
That our perimeter is twice as your.
Why?
Because his is half. Because his is like half of ours.
Do we know that for sure? Now in the picture it might look that way, but was that specified? No, that wasn't specified, but look at the picture. What dimensions are we provided? Huh? So this dimension here, some might call it length, and Gustavo, I don't know if you were saying that the length, you said like the length is the same. I'm assuming that this is what you meant. It could have been something else. I was wrong a second. So I know that dimension of my perimeter. What is it? 12. Right? So let's call it the width. Just because. So is that, if this is 12, okay, what else do I know? What would this have to be? It has to be 12. So I know that my widths combined is 24. Okay, so now do I know the length? Do I know the possible lengths? Well, I have to create an inequality to find them, right? Because I don't yet have my value. So we're looking for what we need, our length. How can I write an inequality to represent this? So again, our fence can be at the most 42 feet. I don't have to use it, which is why it's an inequality, ladies, because it's a range. If I said equals 42, it's different, but it's not. It could be. I don't have to use all my fence. So how do I represent an inequality here? Gustavo, what do you think?
24 plus 2x is
24 plus 2, I'm sorry, slow down a little.
24 plus 2x is less than or equal to 24. 42 and equal to.
Someone explain that to me in words. Go ahead.
24 is the width.
Okay.
And you want to find the length. Since there's two sides of the length, you're multiplying the unknown times 2.
And what's our unknown here?
The length.
Our length. So our length is going to be x.
And
Okay, and then the rest.
And in total you have 42 fences, but you don't know if you're going to use all of it.
Right, so my total is 42 feet of fence, but I don't need to use it all. So we just created a great inequality using the perimeter of a rectangle. How do I solve? What can I do? You should, write something down. Help along with the process. Daisy, what do we think?
First, subtract 24.
Perfect. Because now we're one step closer to isolating our variable. 2x is now less than or equal to okay. So now what? Go ahead.
You gotta divide 2x.
So x less than or equal to 9. What does that mean? Okay, go ahead.
For each length, you could use up to 9 fences for each.
Not 9 fences, 9
feet.
9 feet. So my fence length, it could be 9. What else could it be? 8, 7, 6, 5. It could be any of the decimals. It could be like a foot. It could be smaller than a foot. right? You really wouldn't have 0 because then it just wouldn't really be there. But you get the idea. There's a range here, which is why that becomes an inequality. So you're gonna group up, which you're already in groups, and you're gonna try to go through this one together. So here's the scenario, and I'm not gonna count this as a DOL, okay? This is just gonna be like, do it as a group, and then we're gonna have a multi-step inequality for you to solve as your DOL. Your cell phone plan costs $39.99 per month, plus 15 cents for each text message you send or receive. You have at the most $45 to spend on your cell phone bill. What is the maximum number of texts that you can send or receive next month? So this table just helps you to create. So you may not need the table, but for those of you that need structure and word problems, what information do you know? What information do you need? This is your unknown, what you're trying to find. And then what inequality could you use to find the solution? So create your inequality and solve. Over here, what are the solutions? That's your answer. Okay. Down here on the left, this is what we sort of talked about yesterday, where you may say x is, less than 10. Okay? But this may not make sense depending on the scenario. Does the scenario make sense? And then lastly, you do not have to sketch this on a number line, but if you wanted to, you could. Okay. So take about 8 minutes. Work together on this. This is collaborative. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to write the DOL on the chalkboard for you to solve. Okay. So work on this together. You should be able to write and solve an inequality. And then your DOL will be on the board. You can all do your DOLs at your own pace on the sheet that we handed back.
Wait a minute.